It's a superhuman and heroic spectacular tonight on Spellburn. They said it couldn't be done, but in true DCC tradition, we did it anyway. I'm
Biff.
talking, of course, about superheroes, masked men, vigilante crusaders, Dark Knight detectives, and of course, mutants cursed to protect a world that despises them.
How?
Pow! Earth's mightiest judges are joined by some new third-party designers working on superhero games for Dungeon Crawl Classics RPG. All this and more on this month's Spellburn.
Splat.
I am Judge Julian, and over there with the noise effects, we have Judge James.
Hello there. I'm your trusty sidekick who you can kind of slap around a little bit.
Oh, God, that's going to be useful. And also reporting to us from the warehouse in Indiana, or not from the warehouse, but from is
I mean,
Judge Jen.
I know I live there, but I don't live there.
Yeah, okay,
Uh,
oh, that's fair.
hello, but that really does bring up the question, James. What the heck did you guys do while I was gone last month?
It got wild. It's
It
true.
got wild. It got wild. And last, probably a future Spellburn host, just given his name, Judge Jeff.
Hello, everyone. Good to see you again.
Got his JHD,
Likewise.
JHD. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. So we're gonna swing on over to the tavern, and rudely, I'm just gonna keep the ball and say, uh, I'm going to North Texas in like 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks.
Wow.
And no, it's about 2 weeks. Okay, whatever. Uh, I can't tell a calendar from a handsaw.
Obviously not Calendar Man.
No, yeah, very well. Oh, nicely played, sir. That's like a +10.
I'm hot tonight.
Yes. So speaking of that superhero theme, I'm running some Marvel superheroes, the old 1980s Marvel superheroes phase rip game, as we call it, which is a true classic and a game of Carcosa. So it is the, OSR par excellence, old game con for old people, of which I'm one. So I am, you don't have to be old to go to the con, but we're certainly well represented there. And so then other really exciting news. I'm very happy with my latest adventure, Gods of the Earth, which is a sort of Viking Danish stuff, including a little bit of Shakespeare thrown in there, saga with a lot of chaos, magic, and things like that. So it's Gods of the Earth, which might sound a little familiar to metalheads everywhere. And that's going to be the DCC Day adventure, happy to say. And that is actually coming up for us, I believe. Oh my gosh. What is it?
July 19th-ish?
July 19th-ish. It says
Roughly
July
2 weeks
20th.
before.
July
Yeah,
20th.
I was close. I said ish.
Okay. That's very good. So
DCC, and then pre-RPG Day is the 22nd of June, right?
right.
Yeah.
And there is so you have to pay for my adventure, but there is a free DCC adventure pack with a half length, like a nice con length X crawl adventure and a Mark Bruner DCC adventure. So,
Nice.
and they have little previews of all this stuff on goodmangames.com. So go check it out, and that will be fun.
Congrats.
Yeah. So that's a lot, huh? Okay, Judge Jan, tell us what you're up to. You have a big trip coming up, I heard.
I do. I'm currently in the midst of like editing some more of the zines from Ashraf Braden, the Ugandan author,
Cool.
for Sanctum Sakura. And Legends Legends of Africa Volume 2 will actually be in print for Gen Con. Yay!
Hmm.
Hey, total word nerd stuff for me because I do the pronunciation guide and all that, and it's a whole thing.
Nice.
So I've got that, and yeah, I leave for the UK next week for the UK Games Expo, and there's like a trade day thrown in there, and uh, don't think that I'm gonna be able to gallivant and have fun and all of that because I'm working on a bum ankle right now. So I will
Ooh.
pretty much be there long enough to do the thing and come home and then
Oh.
deal with jet lag. It'll be just like last year. It'll be fine. Um,
Well, at
only
least
I don't have Origins immediately after, so that's kind of a blessing.
you don't you get to hang out with Bruce Cunnington and our friends in the UK at least a little bit, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And
Very
and,
much looking forward to that.
and
Say
the
hi to the
excellent
lads.
right, the excellently named Julian Haley, maybe?
Uh, Even more so, his lovely wife Sue is the one who generally helps me at the booth,
Nice. But
and we've got a pretty decent sized one this time around. So yeah, all sorts of like yeah,
get
coming down to the
autographs.
wire,
Yeah.
coming down to the wire.
I love it.
Um, on the talking shop front, we're still doing lots of prep on the back end for Gen Con stuff, and there's a little I don't know, backer kit, couple of things going on, and can't wait to see how Purple Planet's gonna turn out.
Me too.
Oh yeah.
I
That's
thought
gonna
that
be
might
hot.
affect a couple of y'all.
Yeah, that's gonna be fun. And then all that horde madness is coming too.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I should get on that.
This plus we had a Gen Con registration day yesterday, and
hmm
complaints broke the internet for a while there, like just
Oh wow.
people tweeting things like, "Hey, I'm number 4,500 in line, but I'm gonna get all my games, right, everyone?" And stuff
I
like
remember those days. Yeah, my heart goes out to everyone.
I I saw like a semi spam come out from Chaosium that said they're paying hourly for judges to run Call of Cthulhu, and I'm like, really? I
Hmm.
mean, I don't know, maybe. I mean, why not? I mean, if it was Judge Bob or Judge Matt Toll or a, like some great judge I know, might be pretty great. But I was like, just some rando dude is you're gonna pay? I was like, oh, okay, interesting. Because I know it's Gen Con is it's all kind of different and stuff.
Yeah. But on that note, we are looking for a couple of full-time equivalent, like 6 to 8 hours a day people to help out at the Goodman Games booth.
Mm.
So
Mm.
drop a line to info@goodman-games.com if you are thus inclined. It does get you a badge and a hotel if you fulfill the full-time requirements.
Do you get a sandwich too?
Oh,
Um, Depends on your shift.
Hmm. Because those sandwiches that they bought the judges the last time I was there, that was pretty rocking. I was like, wow,
oh nice.
they were
No,
quite good.
that's probably not going to happen anymore. The chef left that area, so
Oh,
yeah,
well, that's too
sorry.
bad.
Mm.
Oh
Anyway,
well. Okay.
that stuff we can cover like officially and later and stuff. So,
Okay.
and you won't even be there this year, will you?
No, but I'm just
What?
I'm preparing to be really broke, so yeah, I have things coming up in my personal life. Anyway,
Mm.
enough of that. On that ominous note, let us go to Judge James.
Yeah, let's see. So, Netcrawl, I've been playing a bunch of Netcrawl with you, Julian, and
Oh
others.
yeah.
And Jeff too, and Judge Brendan. And so that's been a lot of
Mm-mm.
fun. I've been working on no, well, why don't you, let me know? You can totally play. Um, I, Equal opportunity to Judges J, of course. It's a select club. Um,
Mm.
but kind of testing out a new adventure, a funnel adventure that's based on a lot of art, video games. So we played something that was kind of like Tron, and then we played another one just yet. It was yesterday. My Lord. What the Pac-Man kind of send up.
Oh yeah, that was very silly and very amusing.
That was a lot of fun.
We were playing RPG Pac-Man.
It was stupid.
Yes, it was a funnel RPG Pac-Man.
Yeah, because
Yes.
you know, I'm gonna kill. You know, we're killing characters in this. So,
who won that game, by the way?
Inky.
It was a Judge J. I remember that much.
Ah, yes.
He might be wearing 2 medals on his chest.
Oh, 2. Only
Yes.
2? Only 2. What a piker. Okay, very good.
And then, but coming up in June, because I guess it'll be past tense, is by the next time we have a show, I'll be at Origins and I'll be play testing some more Netcrawl, and then I'm doing organized play for Goodman Games too.
Awesome.
It's exciting.
Very cool. Is that the slime the Slimeaverse thing?
It's a Slimeaverse adventure. Yes, part 2.
Okay.
Brendan's slime child, I think.
Yes. Right. So
Ew.
I'm jumping to the blurb that we've got, right? The 2024 DCC RPG Organized Play Program, Part 1, The Return of the Slimerathant, was presented at Gary Con, written by Mr. Curtis. Race Against Slime by Judge Brendan. And that's the Origins one?
Yes, that'll be at Origins. Race
Oh,
Against
cool.
Slime.
Nice. And then Unnamed Part 3 with the
TBD.
TDB, it says here.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Give me a break.
TD. I'm just like Thaddeus David Belmont.
Yes.
You know, okay. So TBD author will be played at Gamehole Con. And do we have any? Is there a big reveal on the name of that? Since these names are pretty great.
I don't know. This is pretty stale. This is like right before last month's episode of Spellburn that I got some skinny on all this stuff from. I'm not revealing my sources.
Cool.
But I don't know if they've made a determination on the third author or not. Maybe it'll be you.
Maybe it'll be me. Well, you never know. I'm going to have some time on my hands, so one never knows. We should do an episode on organized play. It would be fun to like do a retrospective and see how it went, maybe in the fall. That would be cool.
Did anyone run it at the part 1? Because I wasn't at Gary Con. I just don't know. Or get to play it.
I know people did, but I haven't heard a whole lot on the review side.
So there's a long story about how Trevor, my pal Trevor, got all my tickets, and I had a ticket to one of the organized play games, and I didn't get to play it. So anyway, love you, Trevor. Hope you're listening. All right, Judge James.
No, Judge Jeff. It's Judge Jeff's turn to tell us his feats of gaming.
Yes, feats of strength.
Yeah, so been running some getting ready to run again some local DCC at our store. Been out for about a year with some family tragedies and other things that came up, but I'm back and trying to get back into the swing of things. We got very busy trying to wrangle a bunch of writers who are putting together the adventures for Evolved for the Kickstarter. So that's keeping me busy. I'm trying to do some editing there as those come in.
I'm working on it.
Might be a Judge Jay here too that's helping out a little bit with one of those. And yeah, so it's been really, really fun, really busy, but it's good. And I hope to be prepping for Gen Con here now too. We're doing all of the funnel adventures and the tournament. So it'll be, that's my job at Gen Con. So Jen, I'm sorry, I'm doing 8 hours of other stuff.
Right.
Oh, and there is a really cool, good bit of tavern talk. Some guy named, different Judge Jeff that people might remember is getting married to a longtime partner in Cleveland in July, I believe.
It's a lovely time to be in Cleveland in July.
Oh, that's awesome.
That day, he he may literally be getting married on DCC day. Now I have to actually cross check.
Oh, that's funny.
That's not okay.
That would be pretty funny. We should all show up in like the cosplay or whatever it would be.
We should run tables of games.
Anyway,
yeah, we could zoom in. That's fine.
It's Friday, but it will extend. It's Friday night, and it will extend into the wee hours of DCC day. So, congratulations, Judge Jeff. Well played. Very happy for you, and keep it up. So, and many happy years and all that good stuff. Whatever you say to people when they get married.
Good luck.
Good luck.
I will.
Right.
I will say, this coming weekend, I think we've got like 5 conventions coming up around the country.
Wow.
But I'm super happy to see that MomoCon in Atlanta has started billing itself as a gaming con as opposed to just like anime and fandom. So that'll be a lot of fun. Go see Dieter and Foxy and a whole lot of other people.
Cool.
And go to Origins too, because we'll be there too. But James, like you said, that'll be after the next or before the next show. How is all this happening at once?
Yeah.
It's been a crazy year.
Yes, it's not going to get better, I'm afraid.
You mean like overall or just in craziness quotient?
Crazy, just craziness. I mean, it could go bad too. I don't know, but
it's going to get better.
You're fired, dude.
I have to be like positive? I didn't know that was in the job description.
It's going to be fine. Everybody remember to vote, okay? Just everybody.
Yes, let's vote.
Everybody remember to vote. Okay.
Dear God, what's our next segment?
Okay, let's.
Hey, we do have one Patreon. We talked about it last time, but just as a reminder, Trevor Stamper's got a Earth crawl setting type thing, and he's asking folks to come on by, enjoy it, take a look, and maybe give him some support. So I'll link that in the show notes, and I'm gonna invite listeners, friends, ex-lovers, current lovers, and everybody to go ahead and send us your stuff to publicize on Tavern Talk. I'm sure we have lots of cool Patreon stuff, good cons and other things. So give us a call.
There may be a certain Brinkman with one that I would recommend highly.
Yeah.
Not this one.
Not this one.
Not this one. Okay. But anyway, if you got something that you want to publicize here with us, email us at spellburnband@gmail.com. All right. Enough of that. And now we are going to move over into our segment with our first guest. Judge Jeff is a longtime editor and man about cons for Goodman Games, whose previous projects including contributing to the Valley Out of Time, as well as Underland and Elfland Beyond the Fields We Know. And you've done editing on a whole passel of stuff, Jeff, for Goodman too, I believe, right?
Yep. Yeah, quite a few different modules here lately.
Excellent. Okay. And I'm probably shortchanging you because when I was Googling around, there was so much stuff that I was trying to figure out like which was the biggest or the most coolest or what you would like, and then I just couldn't figure it out. So anyway, that's
probably a Dark Tower at this point.
Ooh. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
That was a beast.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, we could do a whole segment on that, and I don't know, maybe we'll talk about it. But first, I promise superheroes, and this comic has to have superheroes. It has to have superhero fights.
How?
Exactly.
Biff.
So Jeff, we're going to talk about your game, Evolved. And it is a superhero game. Many superhero games, as listeners may know, for those of you not super acquainted with the genre in RPGs, they sort of try to do, they try to be the generic superhero game, do all things for all people, blah, blah, blah. Evolved has a very specific kind of narrow point of view, I guess. Not a point of view exactly, but it has a very specific setting is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And like right in the acknowledgments, since it's been a successful Kickstarter, beautiful art in there and all that good stuff, and it's now in the sort of I'd say initializing and early fulfillment type stuff, I guess. what not fulfillment, right? It's
No,
just
we're in layout right now.
Layout. Okay. No, you're doing layout. Great.
Execution.
Yes.
Yeah.
Execution, exactly. So tell us about, what's the gist? What's the elevator pitch for the game?
Yeah, so I'll call it a curated superheroes kind of RPG, right? That
Okay.
based on the DCC chassis. Um, the Josh Palmer and Eric Bloat of Bloat Games, who are publishing the book, came up with the backstory. So the world history, everything about the the world itself, what causes superheroes to become evolved, right? What causes normal humans to gain these powers, and then the dark fracture that happens in 2051, which is sometime in the future, and it's basically picture the old Chris Claremont. Days of Futures Past setting. This is kind of Eric and Josh's homage to that setting. So it's brutal. It can be quite dark potentially. Very similar to that storyline. And but there's always, you're playing heroes, right? And the goal would be to bring that hope back. So you've got to figure out maybe how you stop the dark fracture in the past as you're learning to become an evolved. You have the opportunity to travel to the future and see what lies in store potentially, and maybe learn some key points that you can bring back to the past and alter history in some way. So
nice.
Okay.
I think you're muted, Julian.
Yeah, so there's two. Thank you. So there is two. Stop muting me, James. I see what you did there.
I'm gonna mute you again.
So there's kind of two settings to it in a sense. There is, as you were just alluding to, Judge Jeff, there's kind of a 2026 era and a 2051 era, and the game, of course, is playable in both and sort of meant to be played in both, right?
Yeah, exactly. So the idea is that essentially, DCC's 10 levels normally, right?
Yeah.
Worth of character advancement. And so the game's designed around level, basically your 0 level funnel up through 5th level. The adventures there are really going to be geared typically more towards the 2026 era. Your burgeoning heroes are going to figure out how they're using their powers. They're going to get more experience. They may have to deal with some incursions from 2051 via these kind of crazy time portals that appear, and that give off radiation. And that's really what causes people to become evolved, are these, this weird chronal radiation that happens when these time portals open up. And people from the future are trying to maybe screw around with the past in some way, and you might have to figure out how to deal with that as part of your challenges, right? So, but you've also got the opportunity to travel to the future, and like I said, and deal with some things there potentially. The game itself was also designed with the ability to bring sidekicks into the game, which essentially are going to be your 0 first level type characters. And so if your main hero dies, your sidekick gets to jump into the former position of his or her or their boss. So
that's a good way to deal with the lethalities, the ever-present lethality anxiety that some players have, I guess.
Right. Yep. So it's a lot of fun. It's got a whole over 100 new powers, that evolved abilities that the evolved can utilize, and we've incorporated some of the really great ideas that are in some of the other third-party publishings. Things there too, to try to really give it a kind of a unique feel and a unique take on the setting.
Well, brilliant.
Do you use any of MCC do you port over any of MCC's mutant powers into the game, or are you just kind of like from scratch?
More of a true DCC take on some of those. There aren't essentially in the setting, you got to figure every evolved superhero is almost like a wizard in DCC, right? They got these everybody's got spells essentially. So the classes are very focused around particular. They each have a separate, very different feel and different sense of identity. But they're very similar to, say, the warrior in DCC, right? You've got a couple key abilities, and that's really it, right? But they're going to flesh out your class a little bit, give you a couple different things that maybe some of the other ones don't, kind of focus your abilities a little bit. And then, I didn't want to overdo the classes because they're all wizards. So it's a lot to deal with for players in the first place. So
how are the abilities determined? Are they just randomized?
There's options for either random or to kind of work with the judge to develop a heroic concept for your hero. So you could do it either way. Personally, I don't think it's DCC unless there's some randomness in it. So, there's a really great system in there, I think, that allows you to randomly determine completely your heroes. Really, each class has a subset of abilities that they have access to, and that really defines the type of class. Like if you're a movement monarch, you've probably got a movement type tiers of abilities, right? That you're going to have access to. Maybe perception, right? Those types of things. But you're not going to necessarily have super strength right off the bat, right? So that
makes sense.
Yeah. So it really does kind of tailor the job description, if you will, for your hero to that kind of feel for whatever class you're taking. And then the ability to randomly determine it, you just get we had some crazy randomly generated first level characters that we came up with. So it's a lot of fun. I mean, you really got to figure out how to work with these different powers and really, figure out how to have fun with it. So.
Yeah, cool. I think superhero games have a really weird legacy of some really strange gonzo superhero creation systems, and the old Marvel Ultimate Powers book is an awesome resource for that. So it sounds like you've given us another one, which is very cool.
Yeah, and I took a lot of inspiration from that book too. So it was
brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a classic. Hard to find the original too these days, getting crazier and crazier, but it's out there, as PDF for people. Speaking of stealing or whatever, I think well, certainly not stealing, because you definitely credited this gentleman, but I know you were using the path mechanic from Weird Frontiers. Is that right?
It is, yeah.
Tell us a little about it, because I don't know if we really dived down into that when we had Beatty on for that episode a long time ago.
So I think David came up with a fantastic kind of a different take on alignment, right? That's fluid. And so you've got the path, you've got walking the line, which is kind of the middle of the road. That's typically where everybody starts out, right? You're just some, Joe Schmo or Julia Schmo or whoever, right? Just you get these powers and you're just going about your day-to-day business, right? You're probably not a serial killer yet, and you're probably not, a police officer, gung-ho hero yet. So you've got the ability then to figure out who you want to be. And the more heroic stuff you do, you kind of shift your worldview and your mindset and your activities to one of the two paths, the path of the hero or the path of the villain, right? And we see that a lot of times in comics, right? You start out with heroes and they go bad, and then they come back to be good, right? And so you've got that fluidity built into the system here to allow you to do that, which is a lot of fun. It gives you a lot of flexibility to play with that kind of trope in comics.
Does it affect any powers? Like you're on the hero side, so your powers maybe are aspected a little different? Okay.
Nope. No. That would be, I thought about that, but it was going to get really complicated really fast.
Right.
And so, no, I think it's just like figure any of the Marvel stuff, right? You've got similar powers among villains and heroes. And so it's just all how you use them.
Is there anything special to denote the anti-hero?
Not specifically. I think the tone of this is really, it stays away from I think the concept of the anti-hero a little bit, in that
Okay.
you're
More
probably going
black
to
and
have
white.
yeah, you're probably going to have to cross the line a little bit to accomplish whatever your goal is, to try to better the world or fix it in some way.
Can you just stay on that walk the line and where you're just kind of like up and down, like you're
You
going?
could, yeah. You try to, you go beat up a villain, and maybe that's okay, but you end up accidentally killing them. Oh, you shift a little towards the villain, but you go save you go save some family that's in trouble in the future, and you're right back at maybe back towards that middle of the road. So,
Hmm.
it's going to give the judge and the player some flexibility to really figure out how do you want to tell your story, right?
Cool.
So.
What kind of page count are we looking at for the initial book?
Well, it
I mean, are we talking
rivals
Weird Frontiers?
the Rivals Weird Frontier is pretty close. Yeah, I think we're a little bit shorter. We're about 700 pages ish.
Holy smokes.
Smoke.
But it's not 900 pages.
Jeff, I was gonna say, you probably didn't need to give him any credit for the path mechanic, because coming in at about 8,900 pages, I don't think he knows what's in that book. I mean, maybe nobody. He probably doesn't remember everything. That you probably could have just got away with it. And in my copy, like, I'll leave the room and I'll come back and I swear it's grown. It's bigger. It's like 10 more pages. Like every time I pick it up, it seems
it's about ready to stand up on its own.
Yeah.
This is just like that. It's got all the rules in it you're going to need, right? It's got everything. So it's got the DCC core rulebook built into it, essentially. So you really don't need any other book to play other than the one, which is nice.
Intriguing.
Comes with a trade-off, but Eric and I had talked about possibly doing something similar to what David did in the drive-through print-on-demand stuff, where you separate out all of the spells or powers or whatever. But we really wanted just one book for the players and judges to have. So that's what we did.
Nice.
So live action strength training. Got it.
Yeah. And I did some real world research for the strength chart in the book. So a lot of that stuff, the amount you can actually lift at any given strength level is pretty based on real world for the most part.
Be prepared to ship using pallets.
That's right. But it is going to be distributed by Goodman Games, so we're excited.
Nice.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah.
It will be distributed by Judge Jen.
I promise to come with the pallets, Jen.
Not so much.
So
either palletize that or make special delivery, throwing your own axles out.
Judge Jeff, I appreciated reading through the setting material a little bit, that you made Minneapolis the capital of the 2051 U.S. By the way, and then of course it's not. The U.S. is only part of the continental U.S. in this setting, right? But can you tell us a little about the setting and how you built on the Days of Future Past stuff? Any bits of that?
Yeah, so a lot of the ideas that Josh had were absolutely fantastic, right? I mean, it was just similar to the X-Men, right? Everybody starts to get these weird powers and abilities, and you either love them or you hate them, right? And the haters begin to come up, influence government lobbying and all that kind of stuff, right? And so by the time you get to 2051, the world is really broken. There are essentially, the United States is fractured into various, almost like large city states, really. And some are pro-evolved, some are anti-evolved, some are neutral, relatively speaking. But there are essentially, some almost like warlords, right, that rule these different areas. And they've got their own individual kind of armies of superhumans, and the world's a really messed up place. And it's not just U.S., it's global. So there are certain areas that don't exist anymore due to some of the bad stuff that happened. There's a reason Minneapolis is now the capital of what remains of the United States. So it really is a very open setting that your judge can take and just go wild with, right? Which I love. And the factions that Josh came up with, the Aeon Yield is kind of the main pro-evolved faction, if you will, to the point where they're very far to the, to way right in terms of their tactics and their ways that they feel that the evolved should basically rule the world. It's similar to like Magneto, right? In his early days, and the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, right? If they would have taken control, this is kind of what it would have been like. And so it really is and there's resistance fighters and all that kind of stuff too. So
cool. I think we're gonna have to wrap it up and go get some emails and get our second guest here. But Jeff, do you want to, as you're heading out to the green room to have a refreshment here, do you want to plug some upcoming stuff?
Yeah, love to. So as I said, I'm working on all of the adventures that the different writers are wrapping up. So probably for the next 6-8 weeks, we'll be kind of finalizing all of those and getting those into hopefully to layout. We're going to be planning on having like a 0, 1st, 2nd, 3rd level set of adventures, and then a 6th level adventure. So you'll be able to start running the gamut of the different time periods, which should be fun. Then been editing Caverns of Thracia, which has now been announced. So that's working with Bob again, which is an absolute joy. And so editing DCC 109, that's my job for this week. And then I've been also editing Academia Arcana RPG by Stefan Surratt that he's developing, which is kind of a Harry Potter-ish sort of world. So
cool. Do you sleep, dude?
No.
Yeah, geez, Jeff. Geez, Jeff. It's like
I really
every
don't.
time,
That's the bad
you're
part.
like, that name just keeps showing up. Well, Jeff.
And then I'm building a whole new rule set for Evil DM Games. So Jeff Maya, he's the one that developed the Barbarians of Lemuria Dicey Tales game and did Legends of Steel and all that stuff back in the day. So he wanted me to do a pulp rule set. So we're going to do something I think similar to Evolved. We're going to put a whole book out dealing with 1920s to 1950s pulp.
Oh, wow.
So
wow.
Sets of rules there. And yeah.
Criminy.
So get to play the Shadow and you get to play, all those fun guys, Rocketeer and yada. So
man, I've been listening to so many of the old time radio shows with the detectives and all that. Oh man, yeah.
So
okay.
Yeah.
I just want to play Kato.
I'm in.
Yeah, Kato. All right. Well, Judge Jeff, it's been awesome to have you. Thank you for being here with us.
Yeah, it's good to see everybody. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure we'll have you back pretty soon, and good luck with the final stages of getting involved out there.
Here comes next. A little preview.
Yeah. And good luck with Caverns of Thracia. That's going to be a mountain, but it's going to be awfully fun. So that's a good time.
We're almost done.
Oh, nice.
Almost.
All right, we're going to go and get our second guest, and we're going to do some emails, and then we're going to jump into our next comics theme segment. So stay right here. All right, we're back, and with us is our second guest. Judge Ed Stanek is the creator of Comics Crawl Classics, as well as many other DCC projects, including PAX
Lex Quay.
Lex Quay. Okay, how did I do that to myself? Because I knew that I was going to have to read that at some point. Okay, Isle of the Celts, and then there are a bunch more.
Yeah, not Celts, man. This isn't Boston.
Julian.
It's like the Celtics,
dude.
Right?
You're fired too.
Okay, yeah.
Do you
Anyway.
have to work with here, people? Come on.
All right.
It's Celts.
All right. Okay. Well, Judge Ed, as we were saying in the green room earlier, Judge Ed is a 3-time guest. I believe this is his 3rd time. That's like rarefied Brendan territory. How many people have been on 3 times? That's anyway, so that's fun. So welcome back,
Maybe 3.
Ed. Yeah, maybe Brendan, and that's it. I don't know. So Ed, welcome back. We're going to do some emails, and then we are going to jump into Comics Crawl Classics. And thank you for waiting patiently for all that. So our first, by the way, the zombie is really under the weather. He has some kind of corpse vid or something. I don't know. He said it was the flirt variant. I didn't want to talk to him about that. So anyway,
that in the heat, it smells too bad.
We've got our top necromancers working on it.
Right. So at any rate,
it's in De Re Mortis.
All right.
We're just gonna run through some emails. So here we go. From Judge Ryan, we've got, I just found your podcast and I'm loving it, although episode 13 seems to be a duplicate of episode 11 on spell duels. I was quite disappointed as thieves are my favorite archetype in the RPGs. So happy to say that our patron AI saved our butts once again, and we were able to recover episode 13. And I know our old episodes are very popular for newcomers. So, again, if you are new to DCC, definitely go through those first 10, 20 episodes. There's all kinds of just really great analysis of the rules and stuff like that. And if you find any errors or typos, it's a different Judge J, so don't blame me. But if you need an episode actually fixed, let us know at spellburnband@gmail.com. Okay. Next guy, David writes to us and says, I was just listening to episode 6 and it mentioned a Mighty Deeds PDF. On the website, the link is broken. Is this still available somewhere? I am a new judge and I'm really enjoying the podcast. Thank you for putting out such a good resource. Well, Judge David, I vaguely remember there was like a Mighty Deeds handout or something that somebody had done, but I certainly couldn't track it down anywhere.
Are we talking about the blank form where you can make your own?
Yes, I think that's what it was.
I've got that.
Okay,
yeah,
so hey, we
Off it up.
Yeah, so I think that's what Judge David means. So I will post it on the site, on our show notes, and I will email David to let him know. I couldn't find anything like that, but of course, there's also Steel and Fury, Judge Marzio's excellent deeds resource out there. So if you like Mighty Deeds and you want to explore some new optional deeds stuff, then go check that out as well. And I'll link that in the show notes as well.
Sanctum Securum's got some too. I know.
Dun, dun, dun.
I wrote some.
That, and I think the 2022 Goodman Games yearbook has more Mighty Deeds by Marzio this time for Lankmar.
See, this is cool. So in fact, I'm going to link all this stuff and the show notes. So I'm so glad that we didn't let the zombie take this one, because what is it? No. All right, very good. Last email in the bag here. Hello, judges. Last year I got my table to switch from 5e to DCC. Oh,
congrats.
Man. Every time you do that, an angel smiles.
Angel? You sure?
Yeah. Okay. So we started with Creep Scrag Creep, which is a great idea. We went from that to Shadow Under Devil's Reef, also a favorite. And now they're off on their own doings while I seed the next adventure. Can you give me some examples about how you use patrons in-game outside of the PC's calling upon them? As a second question, do you add ability mods to damage at your table or no? Let's just take the second question off the table, because I think, strength goes on to melee damage and nothing goes on to missile damage, right?
Well, strength for like short short range thrown weapons.
Thrown guys, axes and that kind of stuff, daggers.
Only at short at the first
short
band.
range only. How do you like that? Okay.
I think. I mean, that's how I do it anyway.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's rules as written. Yep.
There you go. There you go. Thank you, Mr. Curtis and Mr. Goodman and Mr. Harley and all our elder gods. Okay.
And Judge James.
And Judge James for remembering the rule. Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about patrons, guys. Who wants to take this first? Can you give Judge Glenn some examples about how you use patrons in game outside the PC's calling upon them?
I've written a handful of these things in the past, so I have some experience in this area. Almost, I think a good patron or most patrons have a taint for like they give the players some sort of mission, right? And that's kind of a gesh, right? It's like foisted upon them. But that's not the only time the patron can ask for favors. And in fact, when you think about the spell result for the patron bond, there's a gift in return. And so you could also say at that moment that like, and another thing, as we enter into this contract, I need you to do X for me.
Yeah, I mean, very legit. Patrons ordering heroes around is very Appendix N, no question about it, and even older than that. I like it. Judge Jen, what do you got?
I mean, what Judge James said was very, shall we say, ningobble. I'm a huge fan of the patron system in Lakemar because everybody can have a patron. And that means you can also be in a patron's core graces. And there are plenty of chances to kiss their butt to get them back on your good side. So I like just kind of dangling that over and saying, really? You're going to try to invoke that patron again?
Yeah.
They're going to just pipe in and say, yeah, what have you done for me lately?
That sounds pretty good. Judge Ed, imagine I'm a Celt in your Lexikey game. What? What?
God, my heart hurts.
Give me what do you think?
Yeah, so I definitely like the patron mission sort of thing, and certainly the notion of the trade-off. Anytime you're going to cast invoke patron, certainly there's I try to make those things very circumstantial, and but part of that is the patron's got some expectations. Part of it is also that I've always taken the approach that if going back into the cleric's behavior as well in original D&D. If your cleric, for example, is not, if their behavior has no bearing based on who their deity is. Likewise, if you're wizard in DCC or whoever other character who's bonded to a patron, if their role play never really is impacted by the fact that this entity is their patron, then there's something wrong. And so that should pour into the flavor of how they act on a fairly regular basis. So if anything, certainly I think anytime you go to even cast a patron spell or certainly invoke patron, if you haven't been championing the cause of that patron on a regular basis, then you may be looking at a die type penalty or something like that. So yeah, and certainly using it as an adventure hook to if you want to have a reason why the party needs to go on this mission, then find a way. If there's one of the characters in the party is patron bonded, find a way for some kind of vision that they receive in a dream or whatever that is telling them, all right, I'm commanding you go do this thing.
Quest for it too, right? I want to do something. How can I do it? Well, maybe you should ask your patron.
Right. Well, of
Right.
course. Right. My very quick answer is Patron A, who is sponsoring, character in your campaign, is a vile enemy of Patron B, who is a non-player patron. Well, whatever. He's a patron who is not a patron of those characters. And patron B is going to mess with your PCs quite a bit and do bad stuff to them. And probably his guys who have him or her as their patron, those guys are going to come and try to kill the PCs in your character campaign and blah, 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 blah. So patrons can be adversaries of the PC's patrons or just become adversaries, of course, of the PCs. And they can be great adversaries and have all kinds of patron intrigue and cool stuff like that.
The eternal struggle.
I work in something like that on a regular basis in the campaign that I run. In the Roman campaign, necromancy is punishable by death. And the necromancers follow this patron of undead, Mordanace. And so, the party are frequently running into cultists of Mordanace that they have to deal with and contend with. And so, yeah, that kind of the patrons that are contrary to their outlook or to, again, in this case, against civilization, you're going to run into those on a regular basis.
I thought for a minute you were going to say, when we were talking about adversarial patrons, I thought you were going to say, I work a lot like with that in the corporate world, where I was like, oh yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Okay. Well, Judge Glenn, I think we gave you some pretty good ideas. I hope that helps and appreciate all the emails, guys. Keep writing us at the band at Spellburn. Oh,
no, that's wrong.
No, that's try wrong. That again.
Sorry. Okay. Erase. Okay. Email us at spellburnband@gmail.com. That is the correct thing.
You had two ats in there.
Spellburnband@gmail.com.
At.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. That'll work. Spellburnband@gmail.com. Very good. So
good luck.
Judge, yeah, if an email can get through that nonsense to us, then you definitely deserve to be read on probably more than
like
one
Kingdom
podcast.
For an editor.
Right. Okay. Enough said. Let's go and talk to Judge Ed here about Comics Crawl Classics. And I'm pretty enthused. I've had a fun time reading through this. And this is also this has been Kickstarted and has gone out to, I think you've sent a PDF out to backers. I don't know if that's the final one yet.
So actually the entire fulfillment has come and gone.
Okay.
PDF and print copies went out. Gosh, if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure I hand delivered a couple copies to people at Origins last year. So it was the physical copies were coming out about that time.
Wow. That was fast because the Kickstarter was just like last spring or something. Was it?
Yeah.
Ed works fast. I'm not sure if you've noticed.
Ed's superhero name is the Flash.
The Flash. He's a movement monarch, actually. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Very nice. Well, nicely done, sir. Appreciate that. Yeah. I would say now, Ed, you've got something that's a little more all-purpose. A comics tool set using DCC. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. I wanted to try to make it very flexible and modular.
Okay. Tell us now. I think it's a little more straightforward DCC, although there are some important and interesting rules tweaks there. Of course, the weirdest and most interesting part of superhero games is how characters are created. So give us an overview of that, please.
Yeah. So to start off with, the most significant difference, I suppose, is there are no classes. As I was brainstorming with a couple people who were working with the development with me, and we were talking about the process going into it. Initially, we were going down the road kind of like we also had done the Marvel Superheroes game back in the day and loved it. And they had what you could call classes, mutant and tech person and altered human and so forth. But as we were thinking about this some more, I've also played Champions.
Hmm.
And in Champions, there's no classes. And, suppose you've got an energy blast power, it is irrelevant whether that power comes from, some mutant capability or your tech suit or the alien amulet that you've got or the magic wand that you've got. It doesn't matter. From a mechanics standpoint, that's all flavor. From a mechanics standpoint, none of that is relevant.
Just need a lot of math.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
Right.
In Champions, yeah, you do a lot of math going on. We decided to go down more that road so that you could mix and match powers of different types. So there's no classes. You have what I call power build dice. Every level you get a certain number of 6-sided dice that go towards powers. And how that works is any power has a power score. I want to put 2d6 into an energy blast power. Okay, I rolled 2d6 and I get a power score of 8. That's my score in an energy blast. Or if my superpower is super strength, I just roll those 2d6 and add it onto my strength. Very straightforward. The other thing I could do is I could, instead of actually instead of rolling that die for something, I can invest that die as a weapon proficiency. So that if my superpower is, like Hawkeye, for example, I'm extraordinarily skilled with a weapon, then what I do is I just gain ranks in a weapon, and then that gives me some bonus things. Like then I can do mighty deeds with a weapon, and my deed die my bonus die with the weapon goes up 1 die type. That's the other thing. I always thought that the dice chain was a very underutilized genius mechanic, and so I use it for a ton of things in this system because I feel like it adds so much to the capability of shifting powers. So you get a superpower, and like I said, I've got 8 in energy blast. Well, then what I'm going to do, because I have a score of 8, I then to adjudicate how when I execute the power, I roll a d8. And unlike it works similar to spells, but instead of a first level spell DC 1 to 11 is failure. It's very rare in comic books where a superhero's power outright fails. Right. And so keeping with that motif, you only fail if you get a crit failure. It might not have a very big bang, but you only fail on crit failure. So your 1 is a fail, but then 2, 3, 4 is giving you some effect. So I can roll a d8 and still have a certain amount of effect that my power does. And so then as I invest more power dice into it and my power score goes up, the die that I roll goes up. And so that's what because there aren't different levels of powers. There are just kind of like mutations in MCC. There's active powers and passive powers, but there's not different levels. And so how we deal with, someone who's just starting off with a power versus someone who's a world beater is just the die that you roll, up to eventually a D30 with some bonuses gets bigger. And so then that gives you more access to the rest of the scope of what that power can do.
Yeah, I loved. Awesome. It took me a minute to wrap my head around it, but I love just exactly what you said. The powers at first blush look like, ye old DCC spell tables or mutant power tables from MCC, but then you look a little closer and you're like, wait a minute, it's got a result to 2 and 3 and 4 and so forth. And you're like, wait, what's going on here? And then, but of course it's the dice which can grow and all that good stuff. So a pretty neat take on the mechanic there.
What I really enjoy is that you can tell Ed has run this a lot and that he runs like 20 games a weekend or something. And that patter, I was like, okay, I'm with you. All right, I'm ready to roll now. Let's do this, Ed.
There you go.
Let's play.
Well, it must be a fairly light and simple approach too, because so much of the rules in DCC come out of the classes. I mean, which are obviously fairly easy going anyway, but But if there's not a lot of class rules to mess around with, you create your character and figure out what your origin-y stuff is, and then you get some powers, and you're kind of off rocking and rolling then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you start off your powers because you only have a limit. Now, you can also increase the number of dice that you have by taking disadvantages. You take the Daredevil, for example. Okay, he's blind. Okay, that would buy him some additional power dice that he could invest in different powers.
You select the powers that you want, though. Is that right?
Well, so the rule book is actually silent on that matter. But I did make sure that the list of powers, both the passive powers, there's 16 of them. The active powers, there's 24, and I made sure that the list was sized so that if you wanted to determine them randomly, there is a die type that is associated with that. Personally, I would let people build the hero that they want and choose the powers that they want. But if you want to have it more, if you want to go with a randomly determined hero, then that's how your campaign goes. That's fine.
Can I make a zero
villain?
Sorry.
So you can make a 0 level character. You would just not have any power built. You would have no powers, and you could have, but yeah. So it does talk about how you have hit, what your hit points are and so forth with a 0 level, but basically then you're a sidekick.
Yep.
Awesome. You could be 20 dudes who are actually like looking in the Batcave for bat goodies or something though.
Oh god,
right?
The Monarch's henchmen.
Right? Yeah, right. That's even.
And they all have shirts that say Thug #1 and Thug #2 from the old Adam West version.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, yeah.
Pow. No,
Biff.
brilliant.
Yeah,
brilliant. Yeah, very good. Is there a sub-genre or era of superheroes you think that you kind of had in mind doing it? Or, comics been around for almost 100 years. It's superhero comics. Speaking of superhero genre, anyway. What do you think?
So, in a certain sense, yeah, there were two primary influences. One was back in this would have been the early 90s to mid 90s. I subscribed to X-Men and was big into the X-Men animated show. And those were certainly, and so that era was certainly a big influence. But to be quite frank, one of the things that, like, for example, the adventure that I run in this at conventions is called Heroes at Last. It's first level heroes, and you're kind of the sideline heroes trying to break into the superhero game. And that was heavily influenced by, there was a movie called Mystery Men.
Oh, right. I love that film.
And so for anyone
too.
Yeah.
There was a comic book. Oh my gosh, I didn't know that. So for anyone who has not seen this movie, it is absolutely hilarious. And it's the same kind of premise. It's these heroes who have kind of dorky powers, and so I was wanting to keep that in mind. And in fact, there's a couple Easter eggs in the book that refer to, like it says, you can have a power limitation, like you can only work when no one's looking.
Right.
So, but I did have that in mind when I was thinking, especially of the starting character, the first level character, of how, when you've got a 1d6 power score, it's not going to do much. So those were my primary influences. One a bit more serious than the other, but when I run that module at conventions, there's definitely a bit of a spoof kind of feel to it, and the players really get into that.
Are there more? Is that in the book, the adventure that you run?
That is included in the book, yes.
And then what about other adventures? Do you have any?
Any plans?
I always have these plans of, I need to get around to some modules. I've published 5 publications in the last 6 months. Um,
Wow.
and
Wow.
2 Kickstarters in the last 2 months. And so I have a list of things that I want to get around to publishing. I just put out a Manual of the Plains. Before that was my Undead book. And unfortunately, I have a hard time getting around to putting out more adventures. But I want to do that because, I get asked that too with respect to my campaign setting, my DCC campaign setting.
I'm going to take back the Flash. You're not the Flash. Your superhero name is the Gutenberg.
I would just go with the overachiever and keep the mystery men feel to it.
There you go.
Wow. Yeah, that is a ton of stuff. I mean, wow, that is well, you can you can farm stuff out to enterprising young writers like
oh yeah.
Wow, yeah, subtle.
Just saying. I know a guy.
Or silver-haired old timers. Yes.
What are you trying to say here? What are you trying to say?
Look at me. I'm not necessarily a spring chicken here.
Well, yeah, okay.
Freaking begot. Yeah.
Yes. All right. How about we've all talked about Marvel, the old Marvel game a little bit,
right?
Which is just an amazing classic. It feels like it would be the best game of forget superhero games. It's just one of the best games ever done and probably holds up with stuff today. And the rules are crazy simple even for the 80s. You're reading them like, oh, this is really simple and easy. And anyway, were you influenced by, it sounds like you had some Champions background in there as well, which I think everybody in the 80s started with Champions and was like, oh, this game is
I love math.
Right.
90 late 90s for me, for Champions at least.
Well, yeah, that's
early 90s, I think. Champions.
Yeah, so the Champions influence was mostly just from the standpoint of the concept of making the powers agnostic and making them that you build them and invest in them to make them grow as you go along.
Right.
As far as how things function, it was definitely more on the lines of I want it to be streamlined along the Marvel. Like you say, it was a very slim and efficient system. Quite frankly, so is DCC. And so I didn't want to get overly complicated. And Marvel had a lot of situations where, they had column shifts.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I wanted to, and so likewise, like I said, I feel like the die chain is an underutilized mechanic. And so there's a lot of things that I've got that are impact that are using die type shifts.
Yeah, and the Champions was a choosy game, at least when I played it in the way back there in the early 80s. We were you built everything.
Yeah.
It wasn't a random gen thing.
It's the mini game of building the character.
Yeah.
Right.
Whereas, of course, Marvel was like more totally random, as I recall, and although you could probably figure out ways to, I mean, you always ended up with like 5 powers or 3 powers, and you're like, one of them doesn't fit, and you're like, but I wanted to be a cat guy, and like, well, ditch the water breathing, and you can re-roll that or whatever. Okay. Anyway, I always wanted to be the cat guy. So
figures.
Yeah. I don't know, Ed. What do you want to say? Anything else about Comic Crawl Classics? I think it's a very it's a very smooth thing that does what it does, and I actually I want to check that adventure out.
Well, yeah. The thing that I feel like I'm particularly pleased with about it is just that I feel like it's lean and I feel like it's pretty easy to put together a character and to advance a character. Again, so is DCC, and I wanted it to follow in that vein. And I wanted it to be very, very easy to and flexible as well. I mean, like I said, I don't have a firepower and an ice power and such, and I've got an energy power. You apply that how you want to apply it.
Nice.
Yeah, makes sense.
I look forward to using bits and pieces of this like in other settings as well.
Yeah, well, you certainly could. You could drop it into, mutated sci-fi type, near future or far, you could do all kinds of stuff. Well, cool. Ed, do you want to, as we're going to wrap up here, do you want to talk about the next 30 projects you have coming up in the following 2 weeks here? What do you got for us?
Yeah, so it turns out, like I said, just had a Kickstarter that wrapped up actually yesterday. It was my Cosmologia, the manual of the planes for DCC.
Oh, yeah.
Congrats.
Thanks. That I was real bit happy about that one. I was very pleased about. I've never spent so much on artwork on a project before, and this one I feel like it came together really nicely and looks very. I'm very pleased with the visual appearance of it. So the Kickstarter wrapped up, but it won't be too long before it will be available on drive-through, and I'm hoping to have physical copies to bring to the big cons this summer, so people can look out for that. Before that, I just wrapped up the Kickstarter for De Re Mortis, my undead book. That one is available for purchase on drive-through right now, and cool. Of course I'll be bringing the copies of those with me as well.
Awesome.
My next, I was really planning to take the summer off from writing because, like I said, the last 6 months have been a frenetic pace even for me. But probably my next goal, I've done one adventure path, which is a 5 adventure set, take you from level 1 to 6. I plan to do another one. My wife said she wants me to do one in my Viking setting. Particularly says I've introduced this new mechanic in there of character's fate, because that was so pivotal in Viking culture.
Sure.
And so, as the GM secretly rolls a character's fate at the start, and then as the campaign progresses, die rolls that pertain to that get you that are either closer, direct you more closer to or further away from your fate, incur die type bonuses or penalties to steer you towards your fate. And so she said, she wanted to see a adventure path for the Viking setting, so see how that pans out. That probably isn't going to happen until after Gen Con, although it gets to where when I'm not busy writing stuff, I feel lost and I don't know what to do with myself. So who knows? Maybe I'll start working on it sooner.
Well, that is quite a bit. I'll link, of course, I'm going to link all that stuff up in the show notes. Thank you very much, Ed, for being with us today for the third time. Thank you, Judge Jeff, our prior guest, an author of Evolved. Look forward to seeing that very soon. And mega thanks to Glitter Wizard, Loot the Body, and St. Karloff for permission to use their music. We'll be posting this, of course, on spellburn.com very soon. And once more, here's my third run at this. Don't forget to email us often and early at spellburnband@gmail.com. Thanks also to our patron AI and Bob the Voice for their support. And also thanks to our Twitch mistress, Elena, who was under the weather, but was able to come and support us and help us crank Spellburn out tonight. So we very much appreciate that.
Get well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's it. Judge James, Judge Jen, Judge Ed, any other final words here?
Hope to see you guys at cons this summer.
Amen on that.
And in the spirit of our patron AI, never split the party unless the party's already split.
All right. Game on, folks. We'll see you next month.
You